Hey everybody, Freddie Lee Jones III here with another episode, and actually a very special episode of Movies on the Run. The reason why this episode is so special is because it's actually going to be my last movie review in California. For those of you all that don't know, I am moving to Kennesaw, Georgia. I got accepted into SCAD University in Atlanta, where I will continue to pursue my degree in film down south and closer to home. So, today's movie is Black Panther 2, Below High Tide. Wait, no, that's not it. It's actually Black Panther 2, Under the Sea. No, it's not that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about the James Wan directed, Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Nicole Kidman, Dolph Lundgren, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Temuera Morrison starred film Aquaman. Now, we all know how I do my movie reviews here at Movies on the Run. We rate the movies by running distances. So you have the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, the full marathon, and then the crazy ultra. So let's go ahead and talk about what I didn't like. We'll start out with some cons. Every once in a while I like to start out with the cons because I did enjoy the movie, but there was a lot of things that kind of made me a little bit upset with the movie. Now, first and foremost, we all saw from the previews that, yes, this movie follows almost to a T about 50% of what Black Panther did in February, where, you know, it's a new king, the fight for the throne to resurrect the new king. The fallen hero needs to redeem himself, just like in Black Panther. You have a very idealistic villain, just like in Black Panther. You have a war between technically two worlds, the land dwellers and the sea dwellers, whereas it was more along the lines of the world of what Eric Killmonger thought the advantage that black folks worldwide should have against the rest of the world. Let's see what else. Our hero gets a new costume, even though the costume we first saw him in was totally legit and totally badass. But this time around, we needed to upgrade the suit. Oh wait, just like in Black Panther. Let's see what else. My biggest issue with this was there's a scene in here, and it's not a spoiler, but it could be potentially spoiler material, but I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. There's a kingdom in the film, in Aquaman, and they're known as cowards. Because, funny enough, I didn't realize that Atlantis was based more on Greek mythology than anything else. Hence why everyone looks like Greek gods. Okay, enough said. We know that. But they talked about this one group known as, I don't want to say who they were, but they were known for being cowards. They always kept harping on the fact that this specific kingdom was cowards. Then you find out, as they show up to go talk to the king, who is voiced by Demon Hensu, as I don't even want to say who he is, but I was like, wow. So again, we're in 2018, and we have to depict a deep voice, a black voice, as a coward in the film, and we also have to show our black male, who's emotional at best, as the villain. The reason why I have issue with that is because it's the same old stick. The only thing we did was, instead of making them a gang member, a pimp, a drug addict, or just some fool, you put a superhero or a supervillain suit on them, or you dress them up in some sort of way to say, oh, well, it's just a comic book movie. Well, as a filmmaker, again, I don't know how many times I've harped on this in my reviews, but there is messages in the madness. Now, for those who may not recognize his voice, which I don't understand how you cannot recognize Damon Hinsu's voice. I just thought it was kind of, sad that, okay, here we go again. The philosophers, the ones with like actual intellect, were known as cowards. And it just so happened to be a black voice. And I was like, damn, here we go again. With that out of the way, that's all I'm going to say about that. What else didn't I like about it? There was something that happens in the film, which a lot of films do this. And they do this thing where everything kind of wraps itself up in the end. And my wife even mentions that she hates in certain movies how you have a character start out a certain way and then it's like all of a sudden they're Cinderella, and what I mean by that is like, they come from a hard time, and then by the end of the movie, they're all dressed up, hair is done, the whole nine. And there's a scene in the film that happens in. I personally was like, where the hell did this person get like brand new clothes? Because what happens is there's obviously the big epic fight, and I'm trying to keep it as spoiler free as possible. There's the big epic fight. The big epic fight happens. You see this character in what will appear to be warrior attire, which I thought was, completely, badass. Then the very end of the fight, because there's no separation of like time as far as like days or hours. Obviously, this fight lasted, a little bit of a while, roughly, let's say 45 minutes to an hour. My thing is, where the hell did you find clothes to change in when you were in one particular part of the film, and now all of a sudden you're in nice shiny clothes, hair's done, makeup's done, the whole nine. Same thing happens to Amber Heard, who plays Princess Mira. And I was like, oh, okay, that didn't really make sense. And I think that might be everything that I didn't like about the film. So yeah, I didn't like the whole changing of the clothes. Something that happens in the end that I didn't really care for, because your character was one way throughout the film, and then it was like all of a sudden, oh yeah, I could be this person with a little bit of WG magic. And I was like, wow, okay. I would have appreciated a more different ending compared to what they actually showed. And I think that might be everything that I didn't like about it. So let's get to what I did like about it. It's goofy. He's Aquaman. Jason Momoa is actually he's a completely flawed individual. I love the dynamic between him and his dad, aka Jake the Muss, Mr. Tim Muera. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Morrison from Once Were Warriors. I do love the fact that Jason Momoa has the tattoos of the actual scales instead of the suit, and that was the thing that I didn't like about like when we saw that last trailer that showed him in the orange and the green suit. I love the suit more from Justice League than anything else. Or hell, I even like the fact that Jason Momoa swims, with nothing, like, just no suit, no armor, just, he just got pants and boots on. I don't understand why he needs to be shirtless all the time. Oh wait, maybe it's to show the tattoos. Okay. I do appreciate the fact that I think Jason Momoa is Samoan, if I'm not mistaken, and I love how he kind of did a lot of his like his yells. It was almost like you almost thought he was about to break into a haka, in certain scenes of the film, because like he gets ready and you like, okay, it's about to go down, and like he kind of starts something, but he does like this battle cry, which I thought was dope. Also, just like Black Panther. So I think that's the most that I'm gonna say about what I didn't like. Like I didn't hate the film, but it was just like it borrowed so heavy from Black Panther, and I think they could have gone in a different direction as opposed to doing. Hell, you know what? Truth be told, I don't need to see him take over as king of Atlantis. I didn't need that storyline. I would have been cool with the fact of, Ocean Master, which was played by Patrick Wilson. Like, I will say this: Patrick Wilson, to me, is one of those actors. He has versatility. He showed us what a down and out, like, I gave up on life, gave up on hope superhero, like he did as the Night Owl and Watchmen, which I absolutely love that film. But he can also be creepy and sinister, as he showed us in the A-Team, which is another film that I love. I don't understand why people hate that film. But like with Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master, I was like, okay, he spot on. Everyone getting into my likes, everyone who played in the film did their job. They came in there. I would say this: if James Wan, who's a phenomenal director, James Wan came in there and said, hey, I need you to bring your A game. They said, A game? How about we bring you a Christmas Story A game? What's that, you ask? A plus, 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 plus. Like, everyone did a very great job. And even for folks who had smaller parts, Dolph Lundgren's in this movie. He does well. The gentleman, Michael Beach. I think Michael Beach is one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood today. Always brings in a strong black presence, always brings in a presence nonetheless. But I think he's so underrated, But he was the reason why I enjoyed Deep Blue Sea 2. Even though Deep Blue Sea 2 wasn't a good movie, he was one of the main reasons why I enjoyed it. He played it over the top, but in Black Panther, there you go. See, I'm thinking about Black Panther, now that I think about this movie. But with Aquaman, he plays his role so well for the short time that he's there. But it's like, wow, like he had a presence. I would have wanted to see a little bit more of him and a little bit less of Yahya Abdul Mateen II, who plays Manta. I would have loved to have seen it where, okay, Aquaman kind of goes against what I would have assumed would have been the first Manta and whatnot. Well, technically the second Manta, since there's the story behind the Manta name. And I was like, okay, that was dope. What else did I love about it? Cinematography, like everything looked good. Again, just like Black Panther, they come into Atlantis just like they were hovering into Wakanda. They talk about the security of Atlantis, just like Black Panther. One thing that I did kind of like, you almost felt like you were in Wakanda, but if Wakanda was underwater. And there's a scene with the crowd where there's the big fight. Well, I'm sorry, there's a fight between Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson, and some of the CGI crowd, which was one of the biggest complaints. A lot of reviewers were saying, oh, well, the CGI isn't, rendered all the way. Yeah, there's a few shots in Aquaman that nobody's talking about where, yeah, CGI crowd was a little bit sus. As a film student, I know I've made a few films myself, and I know I am not the greatest. But at the same time, when you're dealing with a property like Aquaman, that you're trying to make a relevant superhero, which to me, again, you did that with casting Jason Momoa. I'm not a huge fan of Jason Momoa's acting because to me he's like Ryan Reynolds. He's exactly the same person in every film that I've seen him in, which have been a few. But for this, you get to play basically a drunk surfer who just so happens to communicate with fish and, you know, strong as all hell, can kick ass. It's good for him. Like like Ryan Reynolds. Absolutely couldn't stand Ryan Reynolds because, again, Van Wilder, The Proposal, Waiting, which I love Waiting. But it's basically Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds until he did Deadpool. That's perfect for him. Patrick Stewart, Professor X, but actually Patrick Stewart can act. I'm getting off the subject. Okay, back to what I was saying. Now, you take a $160 million project like this and all of this CGI, there's some scenes in there where the CGI doesn't look as good. And, you know, it kind of makes me upset a little bit that people are not talking about that. There's a few other scenes where, like, the CGI suit doesn't look good. Every time you were underwater, you actually felt like you were underwater. You felt the weight, and that was one thing that I was kind of concerned with, because like the scene where you see Aquaman raising the sub, you actually felt the base and the weight of the sub when it crashes back down into the water. That sound right there, I'm taking sound design right now, so that's important. So with the way that the sub hits, you feel the mass and the impact of it, like through the base of the sound. And I would definitely tell you this: if you're going to see Aquaman, definitely see it in IMAX. Like, to me, because it's visually stunning, it is better in IMAX. And a few people that I've talked to that have seen Aquaman, they said the same thing. Like, they've seen it twice. One saw it in like standard, and then another one saw it in IMAX, and then another friend of mine, he saw it in IMAX 3D. He said IMAX 3D is probably like the best way to look at it, but if you can't get it, go see IMAX, definitely. Oh yeah, actually I do have one other thing that I didn't like about Aquaman. We all know what Jason Momoa looks like. We all know Jason is from Hawaii. But what I found so funny was his skin tone changed a few times. I don't know if it was makeup or lighting, but I will say this. When he was a baby, he was dark, which I thought was cool, because you take, you know, Tamora Morrison, and then you take Nicole Kidman. Obviously, the father genes, you know, set, and, you know, Jake the Muss, a.k.a. Django Fett, he's a dark man. So the kid was dark. But then when the scene where you seen it in the trailer, where Nicole Kidman's talking about, you know, the trident and she has a little bear, I'm like, who this little white kid? And then when he's talking to the fish at the aquarium, I was like, who the fuck is this white kid? Like, I mean, you know he's mixed, but I was like, damn, did he get lighter? But then when he became a teenager, he got dark again. And I was like, oh. There are stages that people should have thought about when they were looking at going from baby to toddler to school kid to teenager to Jason Momoa. They actually kind of fall on that. And that's what I mean by the fact that another way that his skin tone kept changing. And now I will say, as he was underwater, it seems like he was a little bit darker, which I thought was cool, because obviously you would want that. You would want to see him, you know, in a more natural light, no pun intended. But going back, dialogue. Now, here's another thing I didn't like about it. The movie is cheesy. It is a 80s, 90s, I would even say partly 70s inspired like movie. Like there's a little bit of rom-com in it that we've seen time and time again, but they do it in a funnier way, even with music, like Black Nerd Comedy mentioned. And I thought that was pretty cool. The guitar riffs when he would show up in certain scenes, thought that was cool. Now, going back to the dialogue, when the actor, I don't know if this is his first time, but when he played teenage Arthur Curry, and he delivers this line, like, and it's so unbelievable how he expresses himself when he talks about his mother. And I'm pretty sure, like, with all of the acting teachers, like Willem Dafoe, Jason Momoa, I mean, you know, as much as I don't like his acting style, somebody could have taken this kid under the wing, because it's a little bit too over the top, but not in a funny way, like you would have thought if he would have, like, just hammed it up. But this was a sandwich completely made of ham, cheese, with provolone, American cheese, cheddar cheese, smoked Gouda, regular Gouda, blue cheese, even if you like blue cheese, or blue cheese sauce on top of this grilled ham and extra cheese sandwich. It kind of fell apart. Like, you know, he felt like he was more along the lines of reading the lines as opposed to acting the lines out. And what I mean by that is, okay, let's just say if I'm trying to tell you something about a character, we'll do something real quick. So here's the best example. Richard Pryor in Harlem Nights. I just recently watched Harlem Nights. So Richard Pryor in Harlem Nights has to meet with this gangster. And the gangster is telling him that, hey, Eddie Murphy's character, Quick, murdered a woman by the name of Dominique LaRue, flawlessly played by Miss Jasmine Guy. So Richard Pryor is like, really? Quick? No, Quick? He, really? Quick? No, you sure? It's like that. That was good. It wasn't played for laughs. It was serious, but he had to play it like he really didn't know what was going on, even though he knew. The kid in this movie that plays teenage Curry is like, she didn't want me, so why did she not come find me? And I was like, the fuck are you doing? You conveyed the wrong emotion in that scene. And like Willem Dafoe is looking at him and he's trying to emote with the kid or try to help him, I think, with verbal cues. But like the kid just kind of missed the mark. That was the thing that I was like, that really, like that whole scene, that part really could have been taken out. Like if Jason Momoa would have done it, I think I would have felt the impact a little bit more if it would have been done, like make Jason Momoa look a little bit younger, or have it where he's talking to his dad about it because they have such a great relationship. Speaking of relationships, the relationship between Nicole Kidman and Tamora Morrison was really good. I was actually, shocked at how good it looked. I will say this, the de-aging process with what he looked like as a young as young Arthur's dad was kind of funny. It was Tom Curry, that's what he played. It was kind of funny. Like it almost looked like they took a wig and put a wig on like a different actor and just kind of like, okay, we're gonna put this piece from Mr. Morrison, that piece from Mr. Morrison, and it was almost like they just took like this and put a wig on somebody and gave him like the most funniest box Herman Munster haircut. I mean, it was actually kind of funny, and I was just like, wow. When, like, it's hard to do the de-aging when, and I know, hey, production costs. I think we could have easily hired another New Zealand actor that looked like Mr. Morrison, because again, it does take you out. Even there's scenes where I think partly when like Dolph Lundgren, but I think with Dolph Lundgren, what they did was because he had like facial hair and he had such long hair, I was like, okay, you know, that was okay, but it was just, you know, it was kind of messed up how they did Mr. Morrison. But I mean, all in all, it's a good movie. It's a decent movie. It's one of those where, you know, it's popcorn fun. I look for deeper stories, because that's what I enjoy about the filmmaking process. I like the narratives to be told a certain way. No, speaking of which, getting to Yahya Abdul Mateen II as Manta. Manta did a good job. I love that he was only in it for a little bit, because it was more about King Orm, or Ocean Master, played by Patrick Wilson. I thought that his introduction was really good. I love the fact that, it was a father and son dynamic, because the biggest story about the Aquaman film is literally about family. It's about the separations of families, the mergers of families, the forced mergers of families. I thought that was really good of a dynamic for them to put in there. I love the dynamic between Manta and his dad. I love the dynamic between Momoa and Mr. Morrison as Arthur and Tom, father and son. The dynamic between Nicole Kidman and Arthur's dad. Orm and what's his name? And like Dolph Lundgren. Ocean Master and King, what's his name? King Norris. I thought that was really cool. The only one that had it, I think they played it up perfectly, but like the chemistry between Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, they had to build to it, and I actually think I enjoyed that more. That it was more awkward than anything. It didn't feel like they really had chemistry, as opposed to like, as soon as she sees him, she falls in love with him. There's a scene in here, again, non-spoiler, where he does something and it kind of catches her attention, but she's still on the fence because technically he's a surface dweller. And there is absolute hate between the surface dwellers and the sea dwellers, and rightfully so. With all of the technology that they have, both above and below, they all have a common goal. Like the sea folk, they want to destroy the land folk. The land folk doesn't even believe that the sea folk exist, except for one person, and obviously he gets called the Crazy Kook, which we've seen this before, and I don't even want to say the name of it, but we've seen it where there's one character that's tell you, it's here, it's here, it's here, and the rest of the world's like, no, you're just a crazy kook. Obviously, if you're a doctor and you must have been, you got obsessed. Let's just say that. Because there are some crazy doctors out there. But I don't like the fact of, I wish well, actually, no. I don't want to say I don't like the fact. I like the fact that he was in it, but only for a little bit. And he was played by Randall Park as Dr. Stephen Shin. And I thought his character was really good. He was the crazy doctor that was like wholeheartedly believing that that Atlantis was real. Another thing that, I don't know, maybe you all can clarify this, and oh man, I didn't realize I was almost 30 minutes. But why does it seem like they kept calling, every once in a while, they would call Atlantis Atlantic, or Atlanta. And I swear I heard Atlanta mentioned once in the film. Even to the point of, I was like, wow. Well, I know that like Nicole Kidman's character is Atlanta, not Atlanta. So maybe that could have been it. But it was a few other characters that mentioned the word Atlanta or Atlantic and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe it was the sound or something like that. But if you all heard that, like, definitely give me a holler. But I guess I'll go ahead and do my rating because I didn't want to go almost 30 minutes. Well, okay, my rating for Aquaman. My rating, honestly, it's a film I can probably say I may watch more than once. I do have to take my son to go see it, but I think it's more along the lines, for me, it's a half marathon with a 10K added. So, I guess that's the best way for me to describe it. Definitely go see it, but, go see it and try not to compare it too much, which it's extremely hard not to. So, everybody, this is Freddie Lee Jones III, Gritty Ones Productions, Movies on the Run. Freddie Lee Jones III and under 30 out.